Welcome, welcome. As a personal trainer, should you be quiet during your sessions? Let's dive into it. I am a seasoned soccer coach. Let's say I've been coaching soccer, youth soccer, for about 25 years, which is so crazy to think about. And oh my gosh, when you're coaching 3-year-olds, there is no way you should ever be quiet. The first rule of coaching soccer for any age is you get to know their names as fast as possible, and you are constantly having a conversation, giving feedback, saying their name, praising all the things that they're doing well before you throw in that coaching moment where you show them how to do something better. You lose your voice at the end of the session. That's how you know it was a great session, is if you have to sip on some tea or some coffee afterwards. So, how does that apply when you are training adults? Well, it's still the same psychology. You still want to be showing your client or your clients, if you're in a group setting, that you are there, that you are paying attention, that you are engaged, that you are acknowledging, and that you see them, because that is going to differentiate you amongst all the other personal training options, group coaching options that they have to choose from in your community. So we are evolving this fitness experience from you are just a number, you're going to get yelled at, you better do what the leader says that you're supposed to be doing. And we're not pretending like we're not going to get to know these clients anymore. They are there to build some type of relationship with you, or build some type of relationship with each other, and it is your responsibility as the leader to be thinking about how you are doing it, not just with your knowledge of a good session and a good program, but the layers of showing that you are actually present, you are witnessing, and you are acknowledging through different ways. So, in the description, I listed 3 ways that you, as a strength coach or personal trainer or movement professional, can show your clients that you are there with them. And we're starting to have this shift between being that expert and that leader and that someone who is all knowing, to someone who is walking alongside your clients. They want someone that they can talk to. They want someone who they can ask questions to. They shouldn't be afraid of you. They shouldn't be intimidated by you. And it should be a win 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 for everybody, in the experiences that people have from you. And here are some ways that I found that work the best. So the first one is physically being present. And what does that mean? Because you're there. So, of course, you're physically present. What I mean is that you have body language that shows that you are open and responsive and you are paying attention. So, that means that you don't have your phone in your hands. You aren't checking the time on your phone. I highly recommend that you have a watch. And it means that you have a body language that says, like, you are open and you are paying attention. So, usually, crossed arms is a closed off response. So if you can have your hands behind your back clasped, or hands in pockets, or you can hold your hands in front of your body, just something that portrays that you aren't there and you're not like in a bad mood. Because usually when it's arms are crossed across your chest, it's signaling subconsciously to others that you are closed off. Um, you're making eye contact with them. You are smiling. You are having a high melodic voice, and you're changing pitch of your voice when you are communicating with them. And you're not yelling, you're not screaming at the top of your lungs. You might be elevating the tone or the loudness of your voice so that everyone can hear you. You're projecting from your diaphragm, as they say, but you're not screaming, maybe like you do to your kids, or like a rambunctious group, to get their attention. So you really want to think about how to command them. What does that body language look like? You are standing tall. You're not hunched over. You're proud, and you're proud to be leading this group of people in this moment. And so physically show them that you are there. One other thing is that I learned very early on when I hired a personal trainer. I was 16, I was returning from an ACL surgery. I think it was my second one. I tore both ACLs playing soccer, and my parents hired a personal trainer for me, and he was amazing. And so, one thing that I learned about him is that he never turned his back to me. And if I, for any reason, had to turn my back to him, be it I was foam rolling or I was on a machine and I had to like turn all the way around, he always moved himself so he was making eye contact with me. And I never forgot that. And then I actually did that very intentionally with all of my clients when I had a studio, when I've been training them outside. You always want to make sure that you are in front of your client so that they can see you as much as possible, and you're not like staring at the back of their heads. And that's just weird and awkward to be like behind someone, right? So that's another tip and trick that I have for you is always just make sure you're positioning yourself to be the most respectful to your clients. The other way that we show our clients that we are there with them is verbally, right? So we're there, we're talking through the demo, we're talking through what we're seeing, and when we are engaging with our clients, and it's the same way when you're coaching any age, is that you really want to give positive reinforcement before you throw in the negative or the what they have to work on. And so that can be something like if they're doing, let's say, like a bent over row, like you could come over to them and say, "Hey, I love that you picked this weight. I think it's a great weight for you, and I love the way that you've hinged at your hips, but can I suggest that we drive our elbow back towards our spine, get our shoulder blades down out of our ears, and you should feel it. Do you feel it more in your middle back? Okay, great." So we want to give some positives before we layer in the what they need to work on. And that's just building up their confidence, not only in themselves that they did something right, they're not doing everything wrong, and it's giving them the acknowledgement that you're seeing what they did right. So they're like, oh, they're watching me. I feel good that they're watching me because that's what I pay them for. But then you gave them some coaching that was in a laid back style. You weren't criticizing them. You're not coming in with a mean voice. And you're just telling them, hey, you could get more out of this movement if you just tweaked this little thing. You can always open with a question too. Say, hey, are you feeling that in like your middle back? We're trying to target our lats, and that's where you should be targeting from. If you need to touch them and give them a touch cue, make sure you always ask like, hey, can I touch you? If it's been a while since you asked them that. And if they say, yeah, be like, do you feel it here? And just tap where they should be feeling it, because a lot of times that tactile sensation really does work for a lot of people. Um, and then the last thing I'll say about verbal coaching is that people are coming to you because they need help, because they don't know. So they lack knowledge that you have. You know a very high view of the body, of programming, of the movement, of the session, where the session is going. They don't know any of that. They might be supremely disconnected from their bodies. They can't even squeeze their butt cheeks or wiggle their toes. They can't breathe while they do a squat. Like there's so many things that clients come to you for that they just don't have the pieces together, brain to body. And so when we're coaching, I always one coaching cue per set or per game or whatever we're doing, because what's going to end up happening is if you're constantly cueing and constantly coaching people, they're going to get overwhelmed because that's a lot of information. B, they're going to feel like they're not doing anything right, and they're going to get really down on themselves as like they can't do it, they can't figure it out. So they're going to start having this like negative story. And we never want anyone to attach a negative story about themselves or the experience to their experience with you, because that means they're probably going to leave sooner rather than later. And we want them to stick around as long as possible. So when it comes to giving cues and the timing of giving cues, if they're doing something that isn't going to hurt them. Like, we're not going to inflict any harm by allowing them to just figure it out. Do people do the best, most prettiest bicep curl in the beginning? And is that going to harm them? Probably not. If they're squatting and you've already cued them to, like, hey, point your think about driving your knees out towards your pinky toes and squeeze your butt cheeks. If you've already given them that cue and you see them failing at it throughout the remainder of the session, just take note. If they're just doing body weight squats, they're probably thinking and really hard about what you told them and they're trying to figure it out. If they have a light weight, they're probably fine. If we start to get up to the point where they're lifting, closer to 100 pounds, they're getting to their 1 rep max weight, they're getting explosive, and you see that they're doing something mechanically that is going to injure them, then that's a conversation that you have to have with them about either lowering the weight until they can get their mechanics and their movement patterns better, or is it something that needs to be in their movement programming that you could just swap out with something else that's going to be more functionally beneficial for them. So a lot of different components to think about, but like most times your clients are trying to implement the coaching cue that you already gave them. And it takes repetition, repetition, repetition for them to actually then produce it from thinking about it to in their bodies on a consistent basis. So they might get it better 2 reps out of the 10, and that's okay. But if we're constantly coaching constantly throughout the session, they're going to be annoyed that you keep coaching them, that you keep tweaking them, that they can't do anything right, that it was just a failure. And they're just going to start to, like I said, get down on themselves, which we don't want. So if it is not a risky situation, let people figure it out. They have to figure it out. You're not in their bodies. They have to feel it, and they have to feel the failure of it and the yucky feeling of it. And then they have to feel what it feels like to do it well. So you have to allow them to have the playground and have the experiences to figure out what is working best for them. And your cue may not end up being the best thing for them because they're going to try it out and say, hey, coach, I actually figured out that when I do it this way, this feels a lot better for my foot or my hip or my ankle. And then you say, awesome. I'm so glad that you figured that out and you were paying attention enough to like realize that that's what felt great for your body. So let's keep doing that. So there's going to just be this ebb and flow of conversation. You know a lot, but you are not the expert of their body. They are. They know what it feels like to be in there and to be doing these movements. So again, if you are coming from a recommendation and acknowledgement standpoint, they are going to feel safe enough to have that conversation of like, hey, this feels a little bit better when I do this, or hey, this is feeling worse. Like, how can I change it? And you guys get to have that back and forth of how to make it the best experience for them. And they're really going to appreciate it. And then the last thing that I want to leave you with is how we are calling it out. This whole episode was taken from an email that Layla Hermosi sent out, which I was absolutely so excited about because what she's talking about with the team is how I coach soccer and how I coach my clients. And it's all about having these moments of coaching and having these conversations about how to tweak mechanics or how to tweak how they're doing the game or what they're doing within the session and the movement experience. You have to call it out immediately. So that was something so important with coaching soccer, especially kids, is that we'll go back to the bent over row example. If your client is doing something that is so like out there in the moment of doing that bent over row, you have to go over to them and say, hey, can we pause? I just want to point out that something that could help this go better for you. Or, hey, are you feeling that in your lat? Are you feeling this in your middle back? Or where are you feeling it? Because you need to attack the situation immediately so that you can change it in the moment, have the coaching moment, and then move on. And it's the same thing with coaching a sport. If I see a kid who's not using the inside of his foot, he keeps using his toe to kick the soccer ball. When I see it the first time, I'll immediately go over there and say, "Hey, Johnny, I love how hard you kicked that soccer ball, but did you see how it like flew all crazy and it didn't go to your partner? That's because you used your toe. Did you feel it in your toe? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's try next time that you get the ball. Let's use the inside of your foot because I want you to kick it the same strength, but I want you to kick it with the inside of your foot so it goes to your partner." And then you wait and you wait for him to get the ball, and he uses the inside of his foot, and he might kick it wherever, or it might go great or whatever. But you say, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I love that you used the inside of your foot. Do you see that it went where you wanted it to? Did you see how far it went?" That's what we want to do over and over again. So let's use the inside of our foot every time. And so we want to get that moment immediately, coach it, watch it to make sure it goes well, and then move on to the next client or the next thing that you should be focusing on. You also always want to call out the good, which I talked about in the very beginning. It's always positive, positive, positive. I think they say like it should be 5 to 7 positives before the criticism, which I don't necessarily believe in when you're coaching adults, but with kids definitely can be that amount of positives. Um, but which can get a little bit annoying, I will say. But there's a lot of things to praise. There's always a lot of things to praise. They showed up, like your clients showed up. Praise that. Oh my God, high five. You're here. I know there was traffic. I know you just got back from vacation 2 days ago. Thank you so much for showing up. I love seeing your face. I love that you're here and dedicated to yourself. Acknowledge just the simple things as showing up. So always acknowledge it. Always say the positives first, and then come in with the support that you're giving. And so yeah, those are my 3 things. I hope that you can go and implement some of them, and or just start to marinate and think about like how you could integrate these things into your coaching if you're not already. And if you have any questions, ideas, thoughts, want to have more conversations, or want me to talk on anything, please leave it in the comments. I would love to have that interactive component with you on these videos and share more wisdom with y'all. Until next time, be great. I hope you have an amazing day. See ya.